Hey, folks, welcome to the show on an off night and an off time, Tuesday at 7. This is only today. I promise you that I'm going to use this time slot. I had to do this time slot because this was the only time, unfortunately, that my guests were available. But I think it'll be worth it. I mean, this shows we're talking about Thin Lizzy, and man, if I get anyone in here that hasn't spent any time with Thin Lizzy, to at least listen to Thin Lizzy after this show is over, mission accomplished, because this is a band that got missed, unfortunately, by a lot of folks, and they're just an incredible band with some absolutely fantastic music. So, to share with me our love of Thin Lizzy and also our top 5 favorite albums of Thin Lizzy, I have both Martin Popoff and Pete Pardo joining me. How are you guys?
What's happening?
Well, looking forward to this.
Yeah,
absolutely.
This is good. This is going to be very cool. Okay, cool. We're going to get 11 folks in here. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, so like we were talking off air, and I was just mentioning, like, man, this band got missed by a lot of folks. They unfortunately, Phil got sick, and they missed a big U.S. tour, and they ended up recording Johnny the Fox, and that, there was like mishaps that just happened that for some other, whatever reason, they just never really made an impact in North America. I've been talking to some UK people. They were absolutely massive in the UK, Australia, but in North America, I don't know, man. I don't know. When did you guys get into Lizzy? When was your first exposure to the band?
Well, I had heard various things for a couple of years in the late 70s into the early 80s. But the first Thin Lizzy album I ever bought, like with my own money and bought, was Thunder and Lightning, believe it or not.
Yeah. 83.
It was then that I was like, wow, this band is great. And by the time I got it, shortly thereafter, they were no more. I went out and got Live and Dangerous after that. And then I started filling in all the gaps. But like a lot of people here in North America, like if you didn't latch on to this band when The Boys Are Back in Town came out, or, if you got into them late with, Thunder and Lightning was pushed pretty heavily here. I mean, metal was all the rage at the time, and that was like their big heavy album. They fell into the radar, like you mentioned, like in a big way. I mean, I always knew of them, but they were never like high on the radar of most people that I know who listen to this kind of music, which, looking back on it, pretty sad. I think a missed opportunity for most of us.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, a hidden gem for sure. What about yourself, Martin?
Man, I've never thought about that question. I mean, I don't know if it was Fighting or Jailbreak. For some reason, I think the first one that I actually owned was Johnny the Fox, but I seem to remember knowing about Jailbreak or whatever. So I would have been 13, 14 at the time. Definitely got Johnny the Fox as a new release. And that's the one that was my album, right? All your friends had their albums that they owned, right? Sometimes, at least where I grew up, that's kind of how it fell into. Like that's your Black Sabbath album. That's the one you got, and the one you champion because you own it, and that's the one you own, and blah blah blah. So so Johnny the Fox was really the one that I really remember playing the heck out of, because I think maybe that was the first one that I owned. So
yeah, for me, it would have been, I think, later 80s, because I was just looking for new stuff to listen to. And the first record, the CD I bought was actually Greatest Hits, called Wild One, Very Best of Thin Lizzy. And it was, just a Greatest Hits package. But then, man, when you go back, and I'll get into this a little bit. A lot of people know them for one song, right? Boys Are Back in Town, because, of course, Jailbreak being their biggest record. That was their big hit, whatever. But man, when you listen to their catalog, I could name 10 songs that are better than Boys Are Back in Town. Not that it's a bad song, but man, these guys are just so deep, and have so many good tracks. And they've got, I mean, as as we go through the show, you're going to hear about 5 records that are just absolutely stellar, where it's not a situation where there's a clear number 1, number 2. It's like, which one do you put in which order? Because they're all just that good. There's no duds in the bunch, you know? So, yeah, I mean, yeah, just a great band, super versatile. Those at the time, those records that were coming out, I mean, in the mid to late 70s. I mean, I would put those albums up against any band of the day. I'd put them up against Queen, Rush. Yes, I said it. Kiss, Aerosmith. These guys were on. They were not, their popularity didn't dictate their music, because their music was way better than what their popularity managed to achieve in North America. Which, again, if you have not listened to any Thin Lizzy, go back and listen to some Thin Lizzy. Just amazing band. And I spent the last week just going through every record. I'm like, oh my god, there's so many oh my god moments, like incredible.
Even the weaker albums have really good moments as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the versatility of Phil Lynott. I mean, he was an amazing frontman. I love his voice. The lyrics are incredible. The guy was so super talented, super versatile. They're not just a straight rock band. I mean, they had all these sides to them. They had a great pop sense. They had a great melodic sense. The guy was an amazing bass player, and the fact that he learned how to play bass on the job is like insane. The band itself, the member, like Brian Downey. Nobody talks about Brian Downey when you talk about classic drummers, or the classic rock drummer. That drummer is absolutely phenomenal. All the musicians they had in the band. I mean, Brian Robertson, has got like just great players. Gary Moore. The only guy I wasn't. I'll be honest with him, not too thrilled with was Snowy White. But and then of course John Sykes came in at the end. I mean, just great musicians, great players, great songs. All so many boxes checked. It's just a damn shame that these guys did not make more of an impact. But anyways, so we're here to talk about the top 5. I got a feeling everybody's going to have a completely different list, probably the same records, but in a completely different order. And I know I've changed my order about 4 times in the last 3 days. So I mean, it just, because you listen. Oh wait a minute, no, that's a little better than that one. Oh wait a minute, but that one's got that song. It's like, this was really, really difficult. Even to get it down to 5 was difficult. That's where it started, and then putting them in an order was just really, really hard. So, anyways, enough about that. So, without further ado, let's we'll go with Martin and then Pete, and we'll go in that order around. So, Martin, what was your number 5?
Okay, so I actually had no problem with this list at all. I think my list, I'm pretty happy with it. My number 5, I'm going with Bad Reputation, 1977. I often rate this album higher. So, having it in number 5 slot, I guess I'm going to put it down a little bit, but I do love it. Bad Reputation is the big Brian Downey showcase, the really cool heavy one. It's got 3 heavy ones on it: Bad Reputation, Opium Trail with the sort of sinewy back and forth guitar thing. Killer Without a Cause is the other heavy one. Pretty dark album though. The introspective stuff on here is dark, like Soldier of Fortune, Southbound. Dancing in the Moonlight was a bit of a hit for them. Yeah. But then Downtown Sundown, That Woman's Gonna Break Your Heart, Dear Lord, they're all kind of dark and introspective. Recorded in Toronto, where I'm from, right? Produced by Tony Visconti. But I guess the 2 reasons I have it so far down my list, and I've often had it, kind of go up and down the list, are it is a little depressing, and I think the production is not. There's not enough bass for me, maybe even not enough treble. I mean, it's a quite mid-rangey album, which is also an accusation I hurl at Jailbreak as well. But I do find it just a little bit kind of weak on the high fidelity end of things. And, and I don't like the way Killer Without a Cause has that kind of mellow chorus with the acoustic guitar in it and stuff. So I find it just a little up and down. So that's why I'm putting it in my number 5 slot.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that one a little bit later, but all right. Go ahead, Pete. It's your number 5.
So, I changed my list literally right before we went on air here. I've been changing it for the last couple of days. I will tell if we have any Sea of Tranquility viewers who have seen my ranking over there, probably like a year plus ago. I think my ranking is completely different today because this is one of those bands where, depending on the month, the week, I kind of change my tune on which of these albums I like better. And there's a couple that I've been listening to a lot lately. This is hard. It's one of those bands where I say this all the time. My ranking depends on my mood. Today, I'm going to go with Thunder and Lightning, the last studio album that they would do. There we go. With, of course, John Sykes on board. And I do want to make a correction. Martin and I did a show together last week, and that is indeed a Fender bass.
Yes, I read that comment. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was always like, why do they have a Fender Stratocaster on a guitar on the front cover with a band that doesn't play Fender Stratocasters? Duh, Phil plays a Fender bass. But anyway, the heaviest album they ever put out. Like I said, this is the first album I ever got from the band. I still love it. I think it's great. John Sykes is awesome on here. There's some fantastic tracks. The title track is awesome. You got Holy War, The Sun Goes Down, Cold Sweat is a heavy rock classic. But there's all these great deep tracks on here, like Baby Please Don't Go, a lot of fun. Heart Attack, Bad Habits. I mean, This Is the One. I mean, it's just catchy stuff, beefed up. The production is crisp and heavy hitting. And, if you're going to go out with a bang, I've often said that this is probably one of the best last albums you're ever going to get from any band before they call it a day. So that's my number 5 for today. Could rank differently if we do this again next week or whatever. And
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy that they ended with that record. I mean, that record it's all killer and no filler, man.
Yeah.
I always point out Baby Please Don't Go as one of my top 5 greatest favorite guitar solos of all time.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah.
Very lyrical and well put together and structured and a lot of cool runs and really, classic.
Yeah.
John Sykes, right?
Yeah, John Sykes. I mean, yeah. So, my number 5, and I'm going a little bit high tech here on showing the records here. Let's see if this works. My number 5 is this.
Okay.
Fighting. We did a show. I actually did a show with Pete a while back, and we were picking what record would you want to start with that best represents a band. And for Thin Lizzy, I picked Fighting. I love Fighting. It's a great record. I like the gritty guitar sound. For me, that's got the grittiest guitar tone of their thing. It's the least polished sounding, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I think the guitars sound great on that. The songs on it are like this are really, really well done, well written, well performed. It's, the whole Brian Robertson, Scott Gorham pairing on this record is amazing. I mean, if you listen to Suicide, there's some Iron Maiden moments going on there before Iron Maiden was even around. I mean, there's some really, really good stuff on this. The song, for me, my favorite song at Wild One, King's Vengeance.
Awesome.
Is an incredible song. I also love Ballad of the Hard Man. I mean, these guys, even their hard rock stuff, it's like it's intelligent hard rock. It's not, you know what I mean? The lyrical content, the song structures. I mean, there's a lot going on there. I mean, that's one thing about these guys. These guys are like not your atypical blues rock, band. I mean, they're doing it at a much higher level. You can tell that there's some really, really good musicianship going on there. And speaking of guitar solos and all that, the pairing of those two guys, I mean, this album and consequent albums are just absolutely fantastic. But yeah, it's let me just check my notes here real quick, see if I'm not missing anything. Yeah, really gritty rock, great performances, and just a really good hard rock record. And then, of course, they've got the mellower stuff in there as well that kind of rounds it out. So you get your rockers, you get your mellow, you get your pop, you get everything, and just a great one thing within Lizzy. Like I don't know about you guys, but there's not a lot of bands that I can listen to an album from cover to cover just because there's not enough variety. You know what I mean? I can't listen to a Metallica album cover to cover. I can listen to 2 or 3 cuts. Okay, I've heard enough of that. But with these guys, they've got such a variety of material. It's like, okay, here's a heavy one, here's a lighter one, here's a melodic one, here's a pop one. I mean? There's always enough to sort of, pick up your ear and keep your interest. And Fighting is another example of that. So great record, Fighting. So that's my number 5.
Wicked. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We've got for number 4.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. That's kind of where it all starts for them, right? In terms of that sound, you don't really get that on Nightlife.
No,
you get all the pieces put in place on that one, but it's a little rough around the edges, right? So, all right. So my number 4, I'm going with this one, Johnny the Fox.
Okay.
Go. I'm looking at the track list here. So that, yeah, like I say, this is the one that I played to death as a kid. And I love the heavy tracks on here. You've got Johnny, Rocky, Don't Believe a Word. More hang on here. Massacre, of course, and Boogie Woogie Dance are all the most of the heavy ones on it. Iron Maiden, covered Massacre at one point. Fool's Gold, kind of like a good, poppy, but it's kind of like a conceptual epic sort of thing. Borderline, I wasn't that crazy about. Yeah, and even Don't Believe a Word, that one kind of wears thin. It's short. There's not a lot going on. Johnny the Fox Meets Jimmy the Weed is kind of the funky one. Old Flame is one of my favorites on here, which is not, it's more like an up-tempo ballad, which I really like about that. And Sweet Marie, I'm not a big fan of either. But yeah, I would say the likes of Johnny, Rocky, Fool's Gold, and Old Flame are the highlights for me on this. I picked this above Jailbreak because I find that this has kind of warmer production tones. It has lots and lots of just rich enough bass and rich enough mids and enough treble, but it's not a very trebly album. Definitely Jailbreak is much more trebly an album. Great album cover as well. Cool. and softly conceptual, kind of like a Rush album, right? Yeah. Classic Thin Lizzy, 1976. Very, very rushed sort of follow up to Jailbreak. They wanted to get a record out fast and strike while the iron was hot. I think Phil wrote a lot of this record. This is the one, right? That he wrote a lot of it in bed.
It was in bed. He had hepatitis,
right? So there you go. That's my number 4.
Cool. What do we got for number 4, Pete?
We got Little Bad Reputation. Dig this album a lot. It's kind of a shame that they couldn't fit Robbo on the cover, though, even though he technically wasn't.
Brutal album cover, right?
All right, it's terrible, and he plays on a couple tracks on the album, but he was kind of on the outs, and there's all these stories about what was going on in the band at the time, and substance abuse and wild and crazy times and all that kind of crap. But a great album nonetheless. It's got a handful of terrific songs. I love the title track. I love Opium Trail. Soldiers of Fortune, terrific. Southbound, got the kind of cool Dancing in the Moonlight, Killer Without a Cause. It's just That Woman's Gonna Break Your Heart is terrific. It's got those great harmony guitars. It's just all the elements are here. Another terrific album. And, most of them are. It just makes this really, really tough. That's my number 4.
Well, I'm going to echo that sentiment because my number 4 is also Bad Reputation. Yeah, great record. Favorites for me, I absolutely love Killer Without a Cause. That and what you were talking about, Martin, you didn't like what mellowed out. That's why I like the song, because it's got all these transitions that happen within that song. You got the heavy verse, and then you got kind of a jazzy, bluesy kind of bridge, and then you got this acoustic that comes in, and I'm like, oh man, he's good. Again, it's like they're taking it to another level. So that's probably one of my top 5 Lizzy tunes. Dancing in the Moonlight, just a great song, just a great pop song. That Woman's Gonna Break Your Heart. Oh man, that is
great. Yep.
That is a killer song with a great lead line. You got to hand it to Scott Gorham, man. He was on his own for most of this record. He did a pretty damn good job, you know. Dear Lord, I also like that song a lot too. Yeah, there's a lot of introspection in this record, but uh, there's an Opium Trail is also pretty cool, and then you got the hits, Bad Reputation, Soldier of Fortune, but again, it's got, like you said, Pete, it's got that mix of, you know, here's a heavy one, here's a lighter one, here's a pop song, you know, you got all that variety, which again makes it great. You can just listen to cover to cover, and it's like, man, there's all these different elements to keep your interest, right? But yeah, that's my number 4, Bad Reputation.
Cool.
Yeah,
All
that
right.
woman's going to break your heart. I mean, I think of that chorus, and it sounds almost like a little Tex-Mex or flamenco to it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
I mean, they always come up with great weird ideas like that.
exactly.
Right? On these poppy songs or the mellow songs. When they're completely mellow and quiet, they're not so good. But when they're kind of an up-tempo pop kind of quiet, they come up with a bunch of great ideas, right?
And it's like getting back to Killer Without a Cause. I love the twists and turns. It's like the last thing you would expect is that bridge. The last thing you would expect is that chorus.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? It keeps your interest. It's like, well, I didn't see that coming. That's so cool. You know, I love that. I love that variation, even within their songs, is incredible. You know, and so many influences that they have, and they just dump everything in there. You know, it's great. It's great.
And in the end, they're one of the most unique sounding bands you've ever heard.
Oh yeah, who sounds like these guys?
Nobody.
Nobody.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah.
You know.
All right. So my number 3 is this one right here, Chinatown. So
Wow.
I will go with a Snowy White album. I have no problem picking this. I play this record all the time. It's just very infectious. I've got it on both my iPod Classics that are full, 5,000 albums each. And, you know, I like what I like the most about this is those mid-level kind of poppy party rock and rollsy songs that they do. And so that would be Having a Good Time, We Will Be Strong. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. Because at the heavy end, you've got Chinatown, Genocide. You get a lot of Brian Downey on here. You get a lot of cool Brian Downey licks. You know, the fact that Snowy's on it is almost neither here nor there, because he was never truly all that engaged in the band. So I think that the you know, the drivers of the writing are still Scott and Phil, but Snowy is there and does a great job, and I think he fits into the whole thing. But you've got, you know, a Killer Without a Cause. Here you've got Killer on the Loose.
Yeah.
Sweetheart was the other one I was thinking of. Sweetheart, We Will Be Strong, and Having a Good Time are your trio of the up-tempo poppy, it's Friday night, time to go out and, you know, have a few beers sort of thing, right? I love Hey You. Didn't I is a good ballad. Just nothing on here that is not great. To me, it's they're struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
People are like getting a little bored of Thin Lizzy. I think people didn't need a new Thin Lizzy album at the time. So they had to try really hard, and I think they succeeded. I think this is almost like a Thin Lizzy album made to order, which usually doesn't work out. But I think in this case, it absolutely works out, because I'm not bored by a note on this whole thing. I love this whole album. Like, no problem whatsoever. So,
you find Phil's vocals are a little lacking on that one.
Yeah, he's losing a little bit of steam on it,
Yeah.
for sure. The production is a little kind of interesting. It's raw, but it covers all the bases nicely. So it's muscular but raw. It's maybe even a little, I don't know if you'd say punk rock, but it sounds like maybe they're Flick of the Switch. You know, AC/DC goes and self-produces Flick of the Switch. Who the heck produced this? Is it Kit Wolven on this one? Recorded, yeah, produced by Thin Lizzy and Kit Wolven. So yeah, I find it a good, muscular, you know, tough production on it, and just a great bunch of songs that sound like they're made to order, but that means they tried really hard, and I think they succeeded.
Cool, Chinatown. All right, it's your number 3.
Hey, off topic real quick, because Martin and I, 99% of the time, always talk first thing in the morning, and the last thing we want to talk about is beer. What's your beverage of choice tonight?
This is some kind of weird blueberry flavored strange beer, and that means I got to grab another one because I'm almost out.
I'm just curious, I'm a beer drinker, so I always like to know what's coming out for drinking.
So what do we got here? So that one was, Broadhead Brewery.
Wow,
Blueberry Blonde.
Never heard of it. Sounds good.
Neither have I. And then Beaches Brewing Company, Around the Bay, A Bay. So, every single town has so many craft beers, right?
Yeah.
So,
Same here. Cool.
Who knows, right? I mean, there's so much choice when you go into the place. So I just grab one of everything. So
that must be a Canadian thing because I know a bunch of people from up in Canada and they never buy like 6-packs, 12-packs. They just go and they buy one of this, one of that, one of that. See, I can't do that because if I drink I can't mix beers. If I have two different guys, I don't know what it is.
Oh wow! Yeah, well, I mean that's obviously true about drinking, mixing alcohols, right? Like
yeah. I don't know, man. I got the olds, I guess. I don't know. All right, my number 3. A lot of times is my number 1. But in kind of going through this the last week or so, I was like, you know what? I think this week fighting is going to be my number 3.
Wow.
There's a lot of time where this is my number 1, man.
Number 1.
I love this album.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I love this album. Suicide. For Those Who Love to Live. What a great song that is, man.
Yeah.
How about, Spirit Slips Away. Those big doomy riffs. Dum, 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 dum. Thank you. Love it.
Not earlier today.
King's Revenge. Fighting My Way Back, man. Wild One. Ballad of a Hard Man. It's a really fun, good hard rocking song where you guys already mentioned all of the Thin Lizzy isms are finally all coming together on this album. Whether you love or hate the album cover, they have 2 different ones. This is probably the better of the 2. I have this on a t-shirt, obviously, so I don't dislike it that much. But they're trying to look like tough guys here, and I guess they are. But it resulted in a really good album, and I dig this a lot. Like I said, ask me next week, it might move back up to number 1 or at least number 2. Today, I'll put it in number 3. So,
wow. Yeah. Cool. So I think I'm gonna be a contrarian here, or maybe I don't know. I haven't heard your last top 2 yet, but my number 3 is Nightlife.
Ooh. Wow, that is pretty contrarian.
That is.
Man, do I love that record? Oh my God, do I love that record? It's like all killer and no filler. Why do I like it? I'll tell you. It goes back to what I've been saying from the beginning. The whole versatility thing. Yeah. I mean, you got Phil Lynott. I mean, he's writing jazzy influence. There's tinges of jazz in there. Nightlife, the title tracks, got a little bit. It's a bluesy thing, a little jazzy thing. I think of all the records, this for me has got the tastiest guitar playing on it. The guitar playing on this is incredibly good.
Yeah.
I mean, this shows off if nothing else, the versatility of this band, because they're doing everything from She Knows and Nightlife, and then another one of my gotta be top 5 Lizzy songs, It's Only Money.
Great that's a great one.
Song. And the lyrics are just classic. If it's got Still in Love with You on it. There's a much better version on Live and Dangerous, I will admit. And that's, I believe, Gary Moore's soloing on that. Frankie Carroll, keyboard song. Frankie Carroll reminds me of something. I'm hearing like Welcome to My Nightmare, period, Alice Cooper in that. I don't know. Is that just me? You guys get a bit of that?
Never heard that one. I mean, to me, it harkens back to the first 2 albums.
Yeah.
I think it's just a really, really nice, very melodic, beautiful keyboard song. Again, going back to the versatility of the band, Showdown is an incredible song. I mean, there's just so many good songs on this. Sha La La, Dear Heart. It's not, obviously, there's not a lot of heaviness on here. I mean, Sha La La and It's Only Money, I guess, really, maybe She Knows. But it's just it really showcases what these guys are capable of doing as a band. Phil is a songwriter, and all the versatility. Because after this record, they kind of went more in a little more of a rock tangent. after this record, right? So I guess here they were kind of exercising, because if you listen to the earlier stuff, there's a little bit of everything going on in the Eric Bell period, a little bit of everything going on. Here it's a little more. There's the songs are a lot more concise. You know, they're concise statements, and the playing is incredible on this. The musicianship. You know, as a guitar player, I sit back and I listen to this, and I'm like, oh my god, that is so that is. I'm just freaking out how good it is. You know, and this could have very, very easily been my number one. Nightlife. Absolutely love this record. If you haven't checked it out, give it a listen. Not a heavy record, only a couple heavy songs, but there's a lot of melodic content and other things in there to fill in the gaps. So, yeah, that's my number 3.
And what a maturation from the album before it into that one, right?
Oh man, the leap. I mean, Vagabonds
is solid. Yeah, hell yeah.
You're kind of getting there, and then and this is a first record with Brian and Scott. You know, Vagabonds is close, but then boom, they're there. You know, with this album, and She Knows Us. What a great song. Yeah, just love it. Absolutely love this record. Yeah, it's my number 3.
All right. Okay, so my number 2 is this one, Black Rose.
Oh,
I had no problem picking this for my number 2. You know, Gary Moore, again, I don't know how much I really think Gary Moore's personality is particularly all over it. Again, I still feel like it's Scott and Phil that are the drivers. But again, I really love the sort of, so the one class of song on here is again those really up tempo sort of party rockers that have a little bit of that Bruce Springsteen vibe. You know, I've been threatening to do an episode of my podcast, History in 5 Songs, on the whole Bruce Springsteen family of bands, which would be Bruce Springsteen, Thin Lizzy, UFO, Graham Parker, maybe some Elvis Costello. And unfortunately, I have to talk about Bon Jovi, which I don't like talking about. And that's why I haven't even done the episode at this point. But, you know, Phil and Bruce did have a mutual admiration society. So the songs that are like that are like Do Anything You Want To, Toughest Street in Town, Get Out of Here. Get Out of Here's got those straight, big, clanging, heroic chords. It's just like straight in your face. But the ones I really love that I've always thought of as a pair are Got to Give It Up and Waiting for an Alibi, because I remember as a kid when we got this album, both of those songs, for some reason, it could never get out of our head. The riffs on that almost sound like they're more of hitting a scrape than a note. Both of those, it's hard to tell exactly what chords they're hitting, especially Got to Give It Up, which is one of my favorite songs of all time. You know, it's about Phil and his addiction and all that.
Yeah.
Kind of. So an amazing, amazing song. I mean, My Sarah, I'm not a fan of. With Love is not too bad. Black Rose, a rock legend. I always felt that was a little forced. It was a little bit too much. Give the people what they want. But every single other thing on here, including the production, which again is Tony Visconti and Thin Lizzy. So this was a very belabored album. I think they made a lot of it in Paris and a lot of it in London, and it was hard getting guys to work because of their addictions and stuff, and it took a long, long time. But yeah, just almost for that bank of those really up tempo, inspiring, uplifting songs, and then that weird pair of Waiting for an Alibi, which was a pretty big hit, and Got to Give It Up, which is close to maybe my favorite Thin Lizzy song of all time. So this was a solid for sure. It was going to be my number 2. There you go.
That's a great record, man.
It is.
That's a great record.
It is. All right. Speaking of great records, another one that at various times in my life is my favorite Thin Lizzy album, and it's their most popular album, the biggest selling album they ever did, Jailbreak. I mean, a lot of great songs on here. Title track is awesome. You know, it's funny because the big hit of the album is not even nearly the best song on the album.
Emerald.
It's not even the top 5. I mean, that's what's crazy. I've long said that. It's like, The Boys Are Back in Town is the one song that everybody knows, their biggest single of all time. It's on commercials here, there, and everywhere. And you know what? I don't even know if it cracks my top 20 of favorite Thin Lizzy songs. I'm not denying it's got a great hook, and it is what it is. But I don't know. But yeah, some Angel from the Coast, amazing. Romeo and the Lonely Girl, such a cool, quirky song. Warriors, that riff. Cowboy Song, absolutely love Cowboy Song. And perhaps one of the greatest album closers of all time, Emerald. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. Such a heavy song. It's so Irish. I mean, those two guys are just nailing it on the guitars on that song. You got this amazing Brian Robertson solo, the riff, and then the closing moments. You know, Martin and I did a show a couple of weeks back of some of our favorite like closing moments of songs. I love how the end of Emerald, you can almost hear the volume kicked up to 12, and it's so thunderous, and that's the end of the album. And it's such a great song. And yeah, I mean, I love this album. I don't listen to it as much as some of the other ones because I think this is one of the albums that I've heard, you know, a lot in my life, but I just can't deny its greatness. So it's number 2 today.
Cool. Yeah, I knew eventually Jailbreak would come up in somebody's list.
Got to, right?
Yeah, it has to. Okay, so for my number 2, I'm going with Black Rose.
All right.
Great record. I'm going through the track. Do Anything You Want. I love the drum thing, and then at the end he starts talking about Elvis is dead. Anyway, great song. Here's another hidden gem. Another, for me anyway, a hidden gem. Thin Lizzy hidden gem. Toughest Street in Town.
Yeah, it's a great one.
What a great song. Very hooky. You know, it's got like a new wave kind of punky vibe to it that I kind of dig, you know? Like you could tell like that's a song from its era, from its period, right? Because that's the kind of stuff that was out at that point. S&M is a great song. It's just, you know, there's really no duds in this. My Sarah or Sarah, because it's 2 Sarahs. I think this is supposed to be My Sarah. Anyway, I love that song. It's a beautiful song. Again, very, very poppy. It's got a lot going on. Again, it's another showcase of, you know, Phil's amazing songwriting. I mean, there's a great song with a lot of stuff going on. Waiting for an Alibi, of course, was a hit. Got to Give It Up is great. Get Out of Here, I love. You know, and then the last song on here, that whole, we're gonna put every Irish folklore lick into one song, but it works. I think Black Rose, or I'm gonna say this wrong, Roisenboob or whatever.
Roisendob or something.
Anyway,
I have been corrected so many times in my life on how to say that, and I can never remember how to say it.
I can't remember how to say it. But that is a killer, if nothing else. Just the guitar playing in that is absolutely stellar.
That big long Gary Moore excursion, man.
Oh my God, come on. Gary Moore, man.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was thinking about this the other day. Poor Scott Gorham, eh? You know, he's with Brian Robertson. That's okay. That's all right. But then Gary Moore comes in. It's like, this guy must have felt so intimidated. Okay, wait a minute. John Sykes is coming in the band. What? That poor guy. But you know what? Hey, man, he held his own. He played with the best
player. Oh, yeah.
on the planet. He held his own, you know.
Yeah.
But anyways, but no, it's just again, another one you can put on, listen to it. You're going to hear a bunch of great songs, a great variety of material. It's going to hold your interest. And again, Phil's songwriting is stellar. I love all the little twists and turns he puts into his music, all the influences he's bringing in, you know, the heavy Irish thing. I love that. Absolutely fantastic record, top to bottom. All killer and no filler, man. Black Rose is amazing. But that is my number 2.
Cool. All right.
Now we're down to the finals.
Okay, so now I'm going to be the big contrarian. I think Pete probably knows what's coming. At this
I do.
One of the very earliest episodes we ever did of the Contrarians, I did this band, and my choice is Renegade. Love Renegade to death. Absolutely, this is always going to be my favorite choice. We've got a Patreon exclusive Contrarians thing coming up where the theme is, what is the contrarian choice you will defend to the death? And I'm either going to talk about this or Rainbow Down to Earth. No, this record. So what I love about it, first of all, I think it's the best produced record they ever had. It has very high fidelity yet very muscular and rich bottom end to it. It's got really good bass. It just sounds plush and expensive, and probably it's got some of my favorite Thin Lizzy songs in terms of, again, almost back to the Bad Reputation introspective songs, but done much better. And at this point, they're hanging on for dear life. Their addictions have definitely gotten to them.
Yeah.
But songs like No One Told Him, It's Getting Dangerous, and Renegade itself, which is a little bit of, I can never remember. It's got kind of the same riff to it, believe it or not. But Bonnie Tyler.
Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Total Eclipse of the Heart, maybe that one. But anyways, and it's got just these gorgeous, sublime, heavy parts too, where there's no singing going on. But literally, I would put Renegade, It's Getting Dangerous, and No One Told Him. They're all very similar, and I would put them way at the very top of my list. They'd all be in my top 5 Thin Lizzy songs. So that says a lot. And even when they go deep and give you the weird experimental songs, these are 2 of my favorite ones of all of that. So that would be Fats and Mexican Blood. Mexican Blood is like a Tex-Mex rocker, little flamenco to it, but very up-tempo. Fats is super entertaining, so that takes care of that. No My Sarah's here or anything totally mellow. And then what you've got left are the heavy ones. You've got Hollywood, you've got The Pressure Will Blow, Leave This Town, which is a little bit like Sugar Blues, and Angel of Death, which is their uncharacteristic true heavy metal song that they always kind of looked at and said it was almost too heavy metal for us. It's funny when you hear the guys talk about it, they say that it was almost like in bad taste for us to do a song like that, but we'll put it on. So Angel of Death is almost like their build up to Thunder and Lightning in a way. So it doesn't quite fit on here. Pete, we did that episode of songs that don't fit. Angel of Death kind of doesn't fit on here.
On
right?
that album, correct. Yeah.
Even though it's the opener, right? It's the big showcase tune, right? So yeah, absolutely start to finish. And again, it's a Snowy album. I don't know how, well, I do know because I interviewed Snowy and he's not that truly engaged in this. I can't remember which one or two that he was, pretty big in the writing, but it almost doesn't matter because again, I think it's Scott and Phil driving the whole thing. Just love the whole concept. To me, that's exactly what the album sounds like. It sounds regal and like beautiful, rich colors, rich green and red colors. And just fantastic start to finish. Contrarian choice. I know it's their Never Say Die, right, Pete? Or Never Say Die.
I think it's a lot better than Never Say Die, actually.
Yeah, I'll concur.
All right. Well, I'm going back to my number 1, which I proclaimed was my favorite Thin Lizzy album probably like 3 years ago. And I've been listening to this a lot lately. And I did a show on SOT recently. So dun 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 dun.
Wow.
Johnny the Fox, baby.
Johnny the Fox.
Yeah, I dig this album a lot. I think again, it's got great variety. I mean, notice there's a theme here. We've talked about that a lot on the show about all these albums, how much great variety is on so many of them.
Yeah,
and you got your rockers on here, you got some funky stuff on here, you got your kind of ballady pop songs on here. Johnny and Rocky kick things off great fashion. I dig Borderline. Don't Believe a Word is cool little mellow track, right? Fool's Gold, wonderful. I love the title track, Johnny the Fox Meets Jimmy the Weed. Great riffs in that, great groove. You got Old Flame, Massacre is classic.
Killer. Yeah.
So good. Sweet Marie. And I know some people don't like it. They think it's a throwaway track, but I absolutely love Boogie Woogie Dance. I love the groove on that. It's got these cool riffs. Yeah, it's a silly ass song, but who cares? I don't know. I dig it. I like this album a lot. All 33 minutes of it, whatever the hell it is. It's short, sweet, to the point. And there are days where this is easily my favorite Thin Lizzy album. But again, like I said, someone wants to send me an email or call me up next week, I might be like, yeah, you know what? Fighting's made its way back to my number 1. Who knows?
Wow. All right. Well, I don't know if this is a contrarian choice, but it might be for some people. But my favorite Thin Lizzy record is Thunder and Lightning.
Nothing wrong with that.
Interesting.
It's absolutely all killer, no filler. It's right off the bat. Thunder and Lightning kicks you right in the teeth. It's just the opening track is insane. I mean, that is you know, a demonstration of incredible guitar playing, band playing at its you know at its peak. Again, great, just a great band, great song, and Phil is blasted screaming his guts out, and the
Oh, yeah.
lyrics are amazing. Again, this is the one. I mean, incredible. Like, there's not a bad song. It slows down a little bit with the sun goes down. It's the mellow tune, but again, it's got some beautiful haunting melodies in that.
Yeah.
Holy War, another great one. I mean, there's nothing bad on here. Cold Sweat, what a killer riff, man. That riff is just unrelenting. You know, I and every track on this too, man. All these songs, from what I've read, most of these songs were written before John Sykes showed up, but his contribution, his lead playing on these songs, just elevates every song that's on here. I mean, it takes it to another level. Cold Sweat being, I mean, that crazy solo that he plays on that. Someone's gonna hit back. I love Please Baby, Baby Please Don't Go. Bad Habits. What a great song that is. Just another strutting Phil and I'm going to pick up the chicks kind of song. Just absolutely love a Heart Attack. I mean, it's a great record. It's their, I think it probably has their most rockers on it, right? You would say this would be the one, right? I mean, it only really slows down here for, what, one song, really? Someone's going to hit back. I don't know, but it's pretty much all. And it's like, I put this thing on and I'm just smiling. I just can't stop, and I'm listening to, and the way, the playfulness and the way he does some of these lyrics, because he's making these statements, but he's kind of laughing as he's doing it, because there's a lot of the tongue in cheek stuff, and especially songs like Bad Habits, whatever. I've got to have you, stuff like that. I just smile ear to ear, like, this is just the coolest thing, man. Absolutely love this record. And yeah, I remember taking this out. This is how old I am. Remember when you could take records out of the library?
Yeah.
Yeah. I took this album out of the library and I said, "Oh wow, it's got a really cool cover." And then I listened to it. I'm just, to this day, I'm still blown away by Thunder and Lightning. Absolutely love the record. That's my number one.
Cool, wicked, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the only one I have it in for a little bit on that album is the title track, actually.
Really?
Yeah, but I love the mellow one, Sun Goes Down. I love Holy War. This is the one. The one's probably my favorite on the whole thing.
That's
Someday She's Gonna Hit Back is really cool.
Yeah.
Baby Please Don't Go is cool with a stupid title, because we keep thinking it's the other song, right?
Yeah.
But it's a really cool tune. And Bad Habits, our band played that one, and Cold Sweat, Heart Attack. Those ones kind of like, Cold Sweat's a little bit like the title track, where it doesn't get you immediately, but it slowly warms on you. I think Heart Attack's the better song of that. But then the production of it, of course, is very radical. It's a very, very strong production. But
Whole War is such a terrific song, man.
Yeah.
Very different for them, but it works.
Yeah. It's funny. Out of the three of us, their most popular album was only on Pete's list, which kind of goes right.
Yeah.
I'm the only one who picked Jailbreak, huh? Wow.
You're the only one who picked Jailbreak, which goes back to what I said earlier, where that's the album that they're most known for. But look at all the other albums that we thought are just as good, if not better.
Yeah, we were all over the place, actually.
Yeah.
Come to think of it, the lists were all very different.
Yeah. Do you when I started, for me, I had two records that were like, notable mentions. Johnny the Fox was one of them, and the other one was Jailbreak. But Jailbreak for me has got some really good songs, but then it doesn't have the consistency throughout. So, but that could have been like a notable, that would have been, if we were doing a top 10 list, those two records would have been on there. I think a top 10 list would have been actually harder to do than 5.
Yeah, I've got Jailbreak right nudging up against my number 5 for sure.
Yeah, it's right there.
It absolutely would have been my 5.5.
And for me, it was Black Rose. Before we went on the air, I asked both of them, like, can I pull a mulligan and have a tie for number 5? Because I couldn't decide between Black Rose and Thunder and Lightning. So at the last minute, I was like, all right, it's a toss-up. But, yeah, Black Rose is awesome. That's right up there.
All right. So let me see if any got any questions. I've been ignoring the chat. Let me know if anyone's got any questions or comments they want to make. I'm looking at the chat right now. Somebody's have a hard time getting into Black Star Riders. Yeah, all the offshoots of Thin Lizzy. You know, I don't know. For me, without Phil, it's just not the same thing. Yeah.
But we have 2 solo albums of Phil, which is very cool, right? And those are full of all sorts of great stuff and very varied. You talk about, Right Hack, the idea of being incredibly varied. He goes really, really wide lens on those 2 solo albums, but there's some beautiful, beautiful stuff on there. Some heavy, heavy productions, especially on the second one.
Did he ever do a album with Grand Slam?
No. Not one that officially came out. There's been a lot of like live and demos kind of stuff that comes out, and none of it was really all that up to scratch.
No, it's not very good.
Yeah, they're just kind of like, are we a commercial band? Are we kind of trying to do a hair metal thing? Are we keyboardy? Are we pop? It doesn't sound very good.
I think most of us went and tried to get all those recordings when they were releasing them, way afterwards, just because it was Phil. And then you buy them and you listen to me like, yeah, this is not very good. It just doesn't. None of it really sounded well thought out or finished. And
yeah,
it kind of
But this is a band. I remember, talk about old school. Do you remember the Don Bolster, Phil Lynott, and his music, volume 1 through 8? There was this CD. There was the CD collection you could buy in the old days where you can get 8 CDs that Don Bolster, this big Thin Lizzy collector, put together. They're not official at all, but every, Thin Lizzy fans had them. So 8 CDs full of rarities. And Thin Lizzy probably had, I would say, this has always been one of the big disappointments among Thin Lizzy collectors, is there's never been, the proper box set or the rarities collection that gathers up the really cool stuff. Black Rose alone. I have a vinyl record of Black Rose demos, and there's some amazing stuff. But Thin Lizzy probably has, I would say, a good solid 15 absolutely great non-LP tracks. I'd say around 15. So you can make a full CD of really that would just entertain the socks off of any Thin Lizzy fan.
We need a couple of questions here. Which album has Whiskey in the Jar? Isn't that Vagabonds?
Well, that was a single.
Well, it was kind of a non-LP single. Yeah. I mean, in Canada, it came in first on that the Rocker compilation, the London compilation, which had a few of those things like Black Boys on the Corner. There's some really good Shita Mo'oia. That had a lot of really kind of cool songs. So that was something we got in Canada, this London compilation.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I should know this, but I don't think it was officially part of any of
was
those.
It on any record?
It was not Shades. It was not Vagabonds. No, it was.
They tacked it on the end of I think Shades on the CD reissue, but yeah, it was never on any album.
Okay.
Yeah.
And here's a question from Bengal Gangster, and I'll forward this to both of you. This is a near impossible question to answer, but what favorite Lizzy song? I could tell you now, but it'll change in 20 minutes.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll go back to, I'll be consistent with what I said. It's either going to be Got to Give It Up or something like It's Getting Dangerous or No One Told Him, which no one remembers, or Renegade, the title track. So those 3 off of Renegade or Got to Give It Up be pretty high on my list.
Emerald or Bad Reputation for me.
All right. I'm going to go with Killer Without a Cause for now.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get caught up here. All right.
Beats are the fireworks songs, right? The showcases, right? Those are like almost like the objective greatest Thin Lizzy songs, Emerald and Bad Reputation. Seriously. Right?
Heavy hitters, yep.
Yeah. So I hope that you folks enjoyed that. I hope that you guys, if you're in here and you haven't given these guys a chance, being Thin Lizzy, give them a listen, man. You saw how we were painstaking trying to pick only 5 records and how we were trying to rank 5 records. They've got way more than they've got, for me, they've got about 7 albums that are just killer, that you can listen to cover, and you'll hear just, again, a huge variety of material. Everything from hard rock to poppy to melodic stuff. Just every record is a well-rounded record. There's not, it's not just one thing all the way through. So I should mention, Martin, you've got a Thin Lizzy book behind you. Did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, this is the Thin Lizzy visual biography, and actually, just today I got in the Uriah Heep visual biography. But so I've got that, which is more or less a timeline with a bunch of well, it's a big coffee table photo book, but I've also got the Thin Lizzy story, which is from Dublin to Jailbreak, and what is the second one called? Is it called The Sun Goes Down? Anyways, through Weimer, the Thin Lizzy story broken up into 2 books, but all of this is at martinpopoff.com.
And I have the link for that below if you want to check that out. Martin's got some amazing books. I've got a couple of Martin's books on Rush, really good reads, a lot of interesting stuff there. Pete, what have you got coming up on Sea of Tranquility?
Let's see. We've got coming up right after this, actually. We've got In the Prog Seat, our weekly prog show, panel prog show coming up tonight on the channel. Then tomorrow is a new product review new day. So new product review day. Martin's drinking and I'm the one who can't speak. There we go. So so tomorrow is we should have 3 or 4 new CD review shows. Got the new Black Sabbath Sabotage box set. What do we got? The new what else we got here? All sorts of stuff. I don't know what else. There's a bunch of other things that I'll be reviewing. Tomorrow, Thursday, is Monsters Den, and Friday, Mr. Popoff and I will be back at it in the morning at the Funhouse. So that's what's coming up this week.
Cool. So, folks, if you want to help, actually, before I get to that, Sea of Tranquility, I have a link to Pete's channel below. If you want to help support the Hack channel, I've got my Teespring store, which is basically T-shirts, hoodies, mugs, all that. 15% off until Father's Day. There's also Guitar Hack hats if you're interested in that. There's a PayPal down there too if you want to help support that way. If you don't follow me on Facebook, I've got a Guitar Hack page, Guitar Hack group. There's an Instagram. All the links are down there. Any help would be much appreciated. Next week's show is going to be on Wednesday. This was a rarity just to have these 2 gentlemen on.
Blame it on me.
All right. Pete's fault. Oh, I'm kidding. So it's a rarity, but next week's show will be Wednesday. And next week on the show, I will have Steve Stein, the very well-known guitar instructional teacher, is going to be on the Guitar Hack channel next week. I'm excited about that. Steve's an awesome guy. I just bought one of his courses. So that'll be on the show next week. And look for me on Friday at 10 p.m. going live, playing a little guitar, talking some more music, and just to hang out on Friday at 10 p.m. So look for that. So I want to thank these gentlemen again for being on the show. If you guys want to hang out for a second, I want to thank everybody for watching. You guys rock. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great rest of your week. And we'll see you next Wednesday. Cheers, everybody.
Bye.